Hey guys, it's Mr. Anonymity Trade, coming off of the heels of a trade confirmation video with a really quick flavor video. And I don't want to bore too many of you because I know not everyone is as concerned with the actual storyline so much as the gameplay, but I really do find a lot of enjoyment in the lore from Magic. And so I wanted to broach a subject that I've seen floating around and kind of add my 2 cents to the mix about where Khans of Tarkir is going story-wise. A lot of people have been... there's just been a lot of speculation that the Eldrazi will be making an appearance in the set, and I don't think that's likely. I really don't think that's likely. It doesn't really fit with character narrative necessarily. I mean, granted, this is a setup to a future interaction with the Eldrazi, I'm sure. But I think that because a slower set typically does indicate big bads, larger, more powerful creatures that kind of make this set feel more grand. And I do believe that Khans is setting up for that, but not the Eldrazi. For many reasons, but least of which that not all of the Titans have actually left Zendikar, at least that we're aware of. There was kind of some speculation, it was up in the air for a while, whether or not they had left, just because they don't seem bound by the Hedrons, although especially Ulamog does seem rather taken with them, this could be a whole different video, me talking about the Eldrazi. They're very interesting subplot that's occurring right now in the multiverse, but needless to say, we know, because of the flavor that was released with Nissa's new Planeswalker card, that Ulamog, at least, is still on Zendikar. His brood is still on Zendikar. He is still on Zendikar because they've seen him. He destroyed Nissa's clan of elves, which is actually kind of convenient for her because they weren't on the best of terms, so it's like, I know she's upset about that, but at the same time, it's like, how upset can you really be? So that's one reason. I mean, Ulamog just isn't, he hasn't returned to the Blind Eternities yet, so he's not going to be on Tarkir. It just doesn't make very much sense. But the big bad that I think they have set up, which is good on so many levels, and I'll try to just address a few really quickly, are dragons. And it might seem kind of mundane, especially to new players. But a lot of people don't realize, like I said, a lot of people who have recently started playing don't realize how the perception of dragons has changed as Magic has gone on. Magic used to be very deeply rooted in a finite window of fantasy genre. One where dragons are kind of seen in the almost Tolkien-esque way of being these very intelligent, very ancient, powerful beings who are masters of the arcane arts and who have amassed empires and things of that nature. And that's very much how Magic used to be. They used to approach dragons that way, especially in consideration of the Elder Dragons, where, again, Nicol Bolas, this is a whole different topic, but where he finds his origin. The dragons were kind of the playmakers, essentially, and they still kind of are. I mean, Nicol Bolas, there's not a major player in Magic that hasn't interacted with Nicol Bolas and been part of his scheme at some point. So, dragons used to be very much in that way, and then we saw it kind of change gears a little bit with the Shards block, because dragons then were more kind of primal, animalistic, and that's why Sarkhan in particular, who was involved in that as well, wasn't very impressed with them, because they weren't worthy of his worship, and he hasn't quite arrived on who is, because Nicol Bolas wasn't interested in it, and Ugin is dead, and he's another reason that the dragons will play a huge role in this, because Ugin is the one who taught the residents of Tarkir, his home plane, how to kill dragons, for whatever reason. There might have been a blight on the land, blah blah blah. I mean, they really haven't touched on that very much, but needless to say, that's an interesting element. And so the spirit dragon, Ugin, is dead, or so we think, or we're led to believe, killed by Nicol Bolas, kind of one of those off-screen murders that you're probably so used to in video games, um, but his spirit still exists, and it was something I was suspicious of because he is a spirit dragon. You can't imagine that the death of the corporeal body would necessarily be as big a deal for him, but especially we've seen it a lot in the cards, and there's the implication that's been given a lot in the story that, at least on some kind of level, Sarkhan is interacting with the spirit that purports to be Ugin, and his bones seem to still be cultivating a presence of mana. And so what will likely happen, especially given the flavor of Ugin's Nexus, as there's going to be some kind of lame time travel where Sarkhan becomes the Dovahkiin and comes... No, I'm kidding. But it'll probably be something like that, where they go back in time and either thwart Bolas from killing Ugin so that they can use him to help them seal the Eldrazi, and of course he doesn't have to be dead, which is always a plus. Or they're going to find some way to resurrect Ugin, in which case it will likely bring other dragons back from the dead. Now, why do I think this? Why do I think the dragons will be the big bad? Well, first, I think that Mark Rosewater and other people at Wizards are probably upset that dragons are kind of, big dumb dragons now. Like, you get a mythic dragon for every set, and no one really cares, because they're just dumb. They're brutes that don't really matter, so... It's like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Approach to dragons, and I don't think they want that. I think they want the grand, amazing dragons that they like. So that's one reason. I think it's largely personal. Another reason is if you guys checked into any of the Khan's lore that's been released, and there hasn't been all that much, not as much as other sets, of course, but they very pointedly mention how the clans feel about dragons, which really would kind of just be ancillary to the overall story now, unless it was, released in some kind of book. But this is in the overviews, the Planeswalkers guides and things like that, and they make a point to mention it, which makes you think that they will be interacting with dragons in the future. Because if you think about it, most of these people, Ugin is the one who taught them how to kill dragons. He has been dead for 1,000 years. So, obviously none of these people, none of these clansmen remember the dragons to have feelings about them. They might venerate their legends of them, but they don't remember them. So the clans having opinions on them is kind of interesting. Will be good to see how that develops, and definitely how the dragons come back to Tarkir. But they're not going to be the Eldrazi. It'll be the dragons. That's my speculation. And of course, it's just my opinion. I could be dead wrong, or it could be like some Eldrazi dragon hybrid, however unlikely that would be. But it's really something that I can go on about, so I think I should probably stop here. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments, if I'm way off base, or if you're excited to see the return of the dragons to Tarkir. And if you'd like to see videos like this in the future, because honestly, like I said, I could just ramble. Or we could just have a hangout, just talk about Magic. Anyway, yeah, this ending is underwhelming, but this is Mr. Anonymity Trade, telling you to trade safe.